We're the rebels of the digital age, rocking hard like the heroes on a rampage. There is an educational revolution in the air. We're here to show you we've got flair. Gotta raise the stakes, artificial and human minds. No time for mistakes. We're the pixel warriors, fighting side by side, diving deep into the code. Let the sparks collide. Level up your AI knowledge, let it flow through phases. Lost in the future, unleash the technology. So every heart will master. We're one step closer to the sky. Level up your reality, so we go level up your reality. It's the week of AI.
Well, hello and welcome back to Stream 2. I made it. Sorry we're a little bit late. I was the one who ran over because I was doing my thing. But it's okay because I'm so excited to have this next presentation here. This is a good one. I am also excited to thank Swivel for being our sponsor to making all this possible. We can't thank you enough. And also, I would like to thank Brisk for these awesome t-shirts because the swag is sweet. And anybody going to ISTE definitely want to make sure you get one of these so you can be up for some prizes and some getting into some cool stuff. And also to thank our daily sponsor of Quizzes, one of the best platforms. I love that platform. And today we have How to Chat with Text, Close Reading with LLMs. This is something I haven't seen before, and I'm really, really excited for this. So I'm going to bring him up and then tell you more about him as soon as he gets here. Here he is. Yay, Rod. Hi, Rod.
What's up, friends? I figure I have a green shirt on to be with the green screen gal.
Yeah, you did. I appreciate it. Well, okay, let me tell you more about Rod. He's pretty awesome. He is a Louisiana educator, leading with over 15 years of experience teaching and leading in schools across the state. He currently serves as director, program at Teaching Lab, managing projects, delivering professional development, and designing learning experiences. Rod holds a master's in educational leadership and is completing his doctorate researching teacher collaboration. Oh, I love that. With extensive high school English teaching experience, he has a deep expertise with high quality instructional materials in Louisiana. Rod also hosts a podcast called The Science of Dialogue, exploring dialogue on teaching and learning. I love the name of that. I can't wait to dive in. When he's not working, you can find this husband and father of twins. Oh my God, the last guy had twins on the way. How exciting. At a home in Bayou Gauche. You have to tell me how to say that. And on Twitter, gosh, you gotta say it right, Louisiana style. And I live in Boston. That was a terrible accent. On Twitter, you can find him at Rod J. Naqueen. His name, I will put it in the chat box. But welcome, Rod. Thank you so much for being here.
What's up, Erica? I'm glad to be here.
Hey, awesome. So I'm going to add your thing to the stage and give you the floor.
Cool, awesome. So, like I said, I figured I'd have the green on to give you a green screen simulation while I talk to you about text. So if you want to follow along with the resources I've pulled together for our time this evening, you can follow along on the bit.ly that's on the screen, Chat with Text. That'll get you straight to this presentation. So you can follow along with what I'm going to be presenting to you all today. And that slide deck has a lot of resources, so check it out. But first, I'll get started with talking to you about how to talk to text. Erica just gave me an intro, so this is a little bit of my contact information. In interest of time, I'm going to bring us to the core question for us today. And it came up in a couple sessions today, and otherwise, there's a lot of anxiety, sometimes doomerism, sometimes people call it that in the AI space, which I think is valid to some extent. However, I want to start this conversation about chatting with text by asking this broad question: will LLMs kill close reading? You might have heard it before. Maybe it has killed this Teletubby on our screen here. But what I'm going to do is discuss this idea with you all and kind of problematize this question for us. So maybe it has, maybe it hasn't killed close reading. What we're going to do in these 20 or so minutes is question the efficacy of chatbots as tools for close reading in educational or self-directed settings. And we'll also, for that purpose, we will define close reading as a detailed analysis of text to understand its deeper meaning, structure, and nuances. So I just want to name that on the front end, what we were going to be doing today.
Okay, I'm not going to interrupt you again. I just want to tell you can go over your time.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm going to run us through these amazing slides that you may have already clicked into.
Exactly. I didn't want you to rush. I didn't want you to rush. I'm out. Have fun.
Cool. So now that we've thought about this question, like, will language models kill close reading? Let's look at what people are saying. And this is pretty recent, like maybe less than 2 weeks ago. Noted journalist in the ed space, Natalie Wexler, wrote this blog: AI-generated summaries are a problem for authors and society as a whole. She is concerned that if readers rely on AI-generated summaries as substitutes for the originals, that's a problem, not just for the authors, but for society as a whole. That's Natalie Wexler's take. I like her book, The Knowledge Gap, by the way. Worth checking out. Another one, a professor here, Mark Watkins. He blogged recently, maybe a little bit more than 2 weeks ago, but within this month. Nobody is talking about AI's impact on reading. Well, I don't know. I'm talking about it, but I just came across Mark, so maybe we can have a dialogue around it, right? His point is that we've been so focused on in education on LLM's impact on writing that we've missed generative AI's impact on a multitude of skills, including reading. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today with you all. So now that these two folks are lifting up some concerns about AI summaries, let's talk about what they name as the problem there. Let's dig into what Natalie Wexler and Mr. Mark Watkins are saying as far as the problem with chatbots and summaries. So here's from Natalie Wexler right here. One thing she lifts up is that chatbots lack human sensitivity necessary to appreciate literary subtleties. So, for example, how can an AI summary really convey the craft, the style, the nuance of a short story by James Joyce or Flannery O'Connor, two incredible authors? That's one thing she lifts up. Maybe it can't appreciate literary subtlety. What's another thing from Natalie Wexler that she claims here? That chatbots really encourage you to be over-reliant on a predefined interpretation, stifling your independent thinking and your personal interpretations. She warns that we may uncritically accept AI summaries rather than challenging the text itself. That's an objection. What's another one? She's got another one. Chatbots might misunderstand or oversimplify complex literary texts and their nuance. It might lead to an inaccurate interpretation. And she observes that AI-generated summaries might invite us to skim over a lot of other important subtleties. What else does she say about chatbots, right? A couple more here. Reliance on these bots for close reading could diminish your learning ability to read and analyze text as an independent person. Here's a quote: uncritically adopting an AI to read for you is far more dangerous a threat to knowledge acquisition and learning than using AI to write for you. Those are some of Miss Natalie Wexler's objections. One more from Mr. Mark Watkins, and we'll look at this a little bit more later. His concern is that if we allow an overdependence on AI reading assistance, that will undermine students' ability and willingness to closely read and engage with text themselves. The ramifications could ripple across society for generations downstream from our classrooms. So those are some of the objections from these two pieces that came out within this month. So, of course, it's a contested idea as we speak here on Tuesday, May 14th, year of our Lord 2024, right? But Unfortunately for Ms. Wexler and Mr. Mark, the surveys are starting to say something else. So let's check out what we can dig into here. There's a couple critical papers that are linked into our my resources, and I'll drop those links at the end of this presentation so you can review them, that I'm going to use as a counterpoint to the criticisms of Natalie Wexler and others about why AI chatbots shouldn't help you with summaries. So there's this study that was produced. It's called Fables, and the name of it is Evaluating the Faithfulness and the Content Selection in Book Length Summarization. And you can check out this source. There's a link at the bottom of the slide here. It's in my resources. But inside of this recent research, and I believe this one was published actually this year, this spring, this research evaluated the faithfulness of the latest AI language models in summarizing full books. That includes Claude 3 Opus that you might be privileged enough to use right now if you still got enough compute. That's GPT-4, because GPT-4o did not come out until what, yesterday? That is 3.5, just other Mistral, other models in this space. Bard, Gemini were tested, right? So according to this study of how well could the bots really summarize a long text, state-of-the-art models, foundational models at the vanguard, Claude 3 and GPT-4 primarily, achieved remarkable results with summarizing a really, really long text. So human evaluators who looked at these summaries showed around 90% of those summary claims on long text were faithful to the original books. I don't know about you, but whenever I read a book, if I'm trying to summarize to somebody and I can get a 9 out of 10 on that summary, that would be outstanding. There's no way I'm producing that summary unless I sit down forever to produce a 9 out of 10 summary. Just naming what a high-end model can do with a long text summarization. So this demonstrates that AI is really impressive and has an impressive ability in order to deeply understand and accurately summarize long, complex narratives. Might dispute some of the things that were said in those blogs that we started our conversation with today. Let's look at some more research. Now, this is from 2023. This is a paper called Don't Believe Everything You Read, Enhancing Summarization Interpretability through Automatic Identification of Hallucinations. It's kind of gobbledygook there, but what they were doing here is trying to look at and make a comparison between AI-generated summaries and human-generated summaries and trying to suss out what was included in either, what are the qualities of those, how do we kind of compare and contrast across those different places, right? So in this study, which you can review for yourself, I would invite you to send it to a chatbot and ask about it, right? I'll tell you about that in a moment. That showed that AI really can not only deal with a complex text and produce a summary that's a 9 out of 10 if you're a high-end model. It can also infer and include supplementary context that enriches the summary. In other words, the model might know stuff you don't know, right? It can leverage knowledge bases that allows the tool itself to consolidate relevant background and comprehensive summaries. So, for example, sometimes when you sit down to make a human-generated summary and a valorous task, important to do, right, you have to make selections about what you're going to include and what you're not going to include, right? So what this is naming here in this bullet is that the ability of a model to be really thorough in its summary is really powerful. Another thing that I think is interesting is not AI models not necessarily being subject to human cognitive constraints allow them to synthesize a wider breadth of information. I was just using like 2 million token Gemini 1.5 Pro, whatever. Like, that is wild how huge that is. Long videos, gigantic text of hundreds of pages. It's not something that I can digest as a human being in a moment. Having a tool around that can deal with that large volume of tokens or text in this context is really powerful. And finally, AI systems can really impartially capture all pertinent factual elements without human bias. Now, I know this is a complicated topic, and we do, through our language use, build in our bias into language models through their training. I get that. However, the ways that we can dialogically respond to a model can help us mitigate for bias in a unique way. And in fact, I'm bringing myself to a text if I'm going to summarize it, and I'm bringing my biases when I develop my own summary that's 5 out of 10. And you can imagine that a powerful model that's making an 8 out of 10 summary may have a different set of biases, but it's probably not going to have as limited of a subjective perspective as this dude somewhere in Louisiana. So those are two recent pieces of research over the last 2 years around summaries that I feel complicates this narrative of saying that that the chatbots out there are just bad for you and cause you to not critically think. So let's go back through some of those claims from our beginning of our presentation. And we're going to pull a little Aquinas and be on the contrary. So let's look at these claims one at a time. From Natalie Wexler here. How can an AI summary convey the craft, style, nuance of a short story like James Joyce or Flannery O'Connor? Advanced AI gets way better as it continues to develop. GPT-4o just came out. The features of these language models allow you to go in and out of text in a unique way. For example, if you're reading Ulysses, which I read a couple summers ago, you can say, hey, I want to look at this last chapter. I want to zoom in on the literary elements of how he depicts feminine characters, whatever it is, you can zoom back out. These are some ways that you actually can deal with complex craft, style, and nuance in literary text. And those improvements continue to help AI deal with nuance. Excuse me here. Second objection from Ms. Wexler. Students might uncritically accept a summary rather than challenging a text. One of the big, huge deals about ChatGPT is the chat part, that it lives in a dialogic interface that we're used to where we're responding. I don't know about you, but when somebody sends me a text message, I usually don't just read it and leave it there. I probably respond to it. So the way I would push on this objection is say, the way that linguistic models and chatbots work, there's always an invitation for a next interruption. So to assume that a kid is going to uncritically accept, or whomever is going to uncritically accept the first summary rather than asking a question about it, is a pretty big assumption. I think the interface and platform itself invites us to go beyond uncritical consumption of the summary that was produced. So these bots can really facilitate exploration, questioning, not just summarization. And AI-assisted close reads really promotes you to be critical. So if you get that summary, you can zoom in on a particular portion. You can be like, hey, can you turn this part upside down so I can with more integrity investigate it. In fact, that's how I investigated one of those papers earlier to find out about the 9 out of 10 summary claims. It was framed totally differently in the paper, saying that the summaries had 10% problems, which is a totally different viewpoint that has its own inbuilt bias, right? And a chatbot helped me bust that bias. Objection number 3 from Natalie Wexler here, that AI generated summaries skim over a lot of other important subtleties. So if you really go back into the 2 research articles I linked in earlier today, you can see intentional study of how we're going to see if a summary matches a source text. That 9 out of 10 number right there is based on human beings' claims from the long text themselves, and then a concordance between what the AI generated. So you can see that there's a lot of intense work and nuance into helping models determine particular points and not necessarily gloss over other information that's important or subtle. And these advancements that we have day to day continue to drive us further in a place where the power of the language models create even more nuanced and subtle summaries. What are some more objections here? A couple more to go through. Number 4 from Wexler. Uncritically adopting an AI to read for you is far more dangerous a threat to knowledge acquisition and learning than using AI to write for you. Oh my goodness, what a broad, valorous claim. It is nonsense to me. I'm sorry, Natalie. I love your books. I learn constantly through using chatbots to interrogate text that I never would have been able to take an opportunity to get into. I'm able to look at a 50-page RAND report because I have a language model. I ain't got time for that with my sweet little children over here most days, but using this as a tool to augment my reading allows me to be even more knowledgeable and acquire more knowledge, even with more nuance and more perspective. So to me, this is one of the most broadly kind of out there kind of objections. And finally, this one kind of comes from our friend around no one is talking about AI's impact on reading. This objection is like, if we allow everybody to depend on AI reading, it's going to undermine people's ability and willingness to closely read and engage with text. And then it's going to have all this doomer kind of implication across our society. So I'd like to invite you to reflect upon where we've been over social media in the last 10, 15 years. I know we're reckoning with it substantially right now. I'd like you to think about where we were with the internet over the last 30 to 40 years. Think about those kind of cultural moments. And I'd invite you to engage with chatbots in order to enhance your text understanding in a meaningful way so that we can push against this idea that the ramifications are just going to destroy reading for the rest of the future. I just don't accept that as a forecast. And I can tell you a couple reasons why. So I know I can go a little bit over here, but I want to speak to you about what does this mean? So of course, we're debating whether or not we have chatbots, whether or not it's going to like, if I use chatbots, I'll never be able to read again. I won't be a critical thinker. I won't think about text. I won't know what nuance is going on in Joyce. I'll be lost, right? So on my blog, Rod J. Knockin at Substack, you can check out my thinking around how to have a conversation with a text and how that can be a really meaningful way for you to use these new AI emergent tools in your work, in schooling, and learning, etc. As it says here, there's a chatbot can be an inestimable close reading tool that can help you deal with huge volumes of text in meaningful ways. And I don't know who sees more text than classroom teachers and educators in this world, to be frank with you. So why would you refuse a tool? It's like saying, I'm not going to use a word processor because I like to write stuff down. That's crazy. I'd like to ride my bicycle to the grocery store. I would, but I also have a vehicle if it's very far away. We need to embrace these new tech in thoughtful and ethical ways. So that's what I'll speak about for the final part of my conversation with you all today. So finally, what does it mean? Let's think about our chatbots as a partner in our reading. There's always a person there at the terminal with the prompt, right? I know that there's still some kind of forecasting about autonomous agents and all this kind of stuff. But in the frames of works that we hear about now, there's still a human being operating and working in partnership with the language models and affordances that we have in front of us. So I want you to think that the virtue of a tool really lies in its use, in its prudent and purposeful application. So it's on us on how to use a tool. It's not the tool that's going to diminish our critical thinking or reading abilities. It's how we use it. So I'd invite you to advocate for a balanced approach to AI-assisted reading, one that really harnesses the benefits I've talked about today while mitigating for risk as well. Of course, we want to be really thoughtful. And Mr. Watkins has a great advice in that blog that I cited earlier, is that we should introduce friction into reading of a digital text, not to make it more challenging, but to ensure that kids or students or learners slow down and process a text. In fact, I would say that's what an LLM helps me do with the text. It helps me dig into a PDF, a large file, ask a bunch of intentional questions, go back to sections that I find meaningful or powerful, turn them around in different directions, investigate them for biases and interesting points. That's what the power is. So I would take Mr. Watkins' advice, agree with him about my reading ability, and I would really I think this idea of introducing friction can be really powerful for us. A couple other pieces before we close out today. What does it look like when you have a dialogue with a text? So I know I'm here saying, how do you have a chat with a text? You should think about a few key things. What's the context window? In other words, how big of a text can it take? Can it take the 150-page novella you're working with? Can it take a 600-page textbook, a 30-page research article? Context window is really important, and those things are growing day by day. I love Anthropic products because context windows are named really explicitly and are huge. And I named that on the slide here. Anchor sources. So what I would say, think about this in context of curriculum, right? So if you, rather than asking a bot for its knowledge, think about it this way, that it's the docent or it's the librarian, and you're going to learn about Egyptian history, and you found this Egyptian history text, and now you're going to use the bot to investigate the text. That's how I would invite you to do it. Then you can zoom in and zoom out on portions of that text, but you've anchored it in the understanding of that resource that you've brought to the model itself. I think that's a really critical point when you think about using text with chatbots. I mentioned this a little bit already. Think about the way you use a map on a touch screen. Like, you can zoom into a portion and zoom back out. You can do similar things with a text if you leverage a language model. I can zoom into the third paragraph on page 4. I can zoom all the way out, and I can ask it to give me some context for where this paper or where this text came from. A variety of different things that allow you to kind of see a variety of perspectives on the text that you're working with. And finally, we all know, well, most of us probably are blessed if you're living out there without a control F. We've lived in a control F world for a while. Think about that, but with even more intentional questions. You used to just be able to say, hey, where does it say bot in my text? I can find 75 instances of it. Now I can say, hey, tell me, where does it say bot in the text? Give me the quote. And also compare that usage to the usage on page 8, right? So that is a totally different paradigm. And the way that I like to speak about it is, they shut me off of my compute points the other day. So it must be useful to me as an individual and as a learner and as a professional. If I'm using all my stuff up every month, it must be powerful. If you want to hear more about my thinking here, you can check out Jethro Jones's podcast, Transformative Principle. I was on that podcast a couple months ago talking about exactly this. That's in my resources here as well. And I'm going to forego this demo. I'm going to invite you to go out there and do some demonstrations of how you can think about text in your context, in your professional and personal learning and teaching work, and invite you to click and think about some of the things I brought you through today. If you're in the resources, here's some of my references from what I spoke about today, especially those 2 research articles. And you can access all of this through the bit.ly that's on the screen. That's bit.ly/chat-with-text. This is all my contact information. Come follow me on Twitter so you can see what kind of crazy stuff I'm trying to do with Bactine and bots and all this other kind of stuff on there. Check out my blog and check out my podcast if you're interested in the work that I'm doing. It's been a blessing to be a part of this event and be part of the Week of AI. And to think about how this emergent technology can really bring us to a new place in our work and teaching and learning. So thank you, Erica, for your time. And thanks, Amanda, also for the space to speak about chat with text.
I am just blown away because the fact that you did that in 30 minutes and there's so much. This was going to be rewatched so many times. I can tell. Somebody said there might be a problem with your link, but I'm going to test it myself and make sure that it's fine. It could have been just a typo. So let's make sure while we're here, bit.ly/chat with texts. And if it works for me, we're good. It says I need access. So you just have to change the access to your slides and you were going to have a lot of fans. Yeah, I'm glad we did that. We didn't have to do that live, I guess, but why not be real?
No, thank you for that. No, and I wouldn't know that if nobody would have said it. So it's about to go open right now, and we should be pretty good.
Right on. Here we go. I just refreshed it, and I'm psyched because here it comes. Perfect. All set. So we are all set on his link, and we are all set for this evening on this channel. Don't forget about, oh my goodness, we have so much coming up. It's a lot. We had an incredible start to the week so far. So join our Padlet map. It's bit.ly/week of AI map, all in lowercase. And don't forget, this Saturday, we dive deeper, the hands-on workshops. I'm teaching one. I think Amanda is, and I believe there's Eric Kurtz. There's a bunch of people in there, wonderful people. Thanks again to everyone for our sponsors, especially Swivel and Brisk, and definitely Quizzes for today. We thank you for helping us on this journey through education. And don't forget, Masked Singer for Week of AI is this Friday. It is live. It is a separate sign up. It's a must be there event and it will not be recorded. So you do not want to miss this and come ready to have some fun. All right. Well, have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for that. I cannot wait to show my bosses your presentation. I think it's what people need to hear. And I'm glad you're the smart one that's doing this. Let me do the fun stuff. So I'm grateful for that. Okay. So, okay, here we go.
Glad to be connected. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye, everybody. Peace.
Hello and welcome to the Premium AI Strategy Accelerator, the ultimate program for schools, colleges and universities and businesses that want to lead in the AI revolution. Before you apply, let me tell you how this program works. Who is this program for? We focus on helping a hand-picked team of 6 to 10 change makers in your organization. And this elite innovation squad will become your internal startup, pioneering AI-driven solutions that define your organization's future.